Good afternoon. My name's Julie Capsalis and I'm Chair of Coast to Capital Local Enterprise Partnership. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Coast to Capital virtual launch of the Skills 360 Board's Skills Strategy and Action Plan. Although we can't meet in person today, we're really pleased to be able to still deliver this event virtually with the wonderful support of Emily and her team at Platform 9. I'm really delighted to have so many partners and stakeholders with us. For those of you who are unable to join us today, or those of you who'd like to watch it again, we will, as usual, be recording the event, which will be available on our YouTube channel. At Coast to Capital, we recognise the importance of developing and enhancing our skills base, progressing people through education and maximising their potential to support the productivity and growth of our businesses and our region. The importance of skills is recognised within our Build Back Stronger, Smarter and Greener recovery strategy. And this new skills strategy and action plan now forms part of our overarching plans to support regional economic recovery and our future sustainable growth. As a region, we're very lucky to have 4 world-class universities in Brighton, Sussex, Chichester and the University of Creative Arts, and also Roffey Park Institute. They sit alongside our exceptional FE colleges, private training providers, and of course our schools. These institutions are critical to meeting and anticipating our future skills needs and providing the highest quality teaching and learning and research. This strategy sets out the challenges that we face. Many of them are long-standing challenges, and they will require new and innovative partnerships to address them. These include pockets of deprivation that we have on the coast and in Crawley, where we believe that this is directly linked to lower skills levels. We need to work together to address these, to look at widening participation in higher and further education, and also recognising education's role in supporting social mobility. We also have a significant gap in our 20 to 40-year-olds, and we need to encourage those people to stay in the region and fill higher skilled and higher value jobs. And we need to better understand the skills and technology needs of our businesses to ensure that we can match supply and demand, working with education and business together. This includes a greater understanding of the impact of digital and automation on jobs of the future. The Skills 360 Board have worked with the team at Coast to Capital to lead a thorough consultation process on skills needs with stakeholders. These informative discussions have helped us to identify areas of opportunity and interventions that will help us address these challenges. Today's strategy and action plan is the culmination of this hard work. Today, you'll hear from our chair of the Skills 360s Board, Frances Rutter, providing an introduction to and overview of the work of the board. From Kirsten Trussell, Head of Strategy and Policy at Coast to Capital, who will discuss the strategy and the action plan. And we'll then be holding a panel discussion, which will be facilitated by Jenny Anderson, one of our founding Skills 360 board members and our champion for stakeholder conversations. The discussion themes have been informed by questions you submitted at registration. I'd also like to add my personal thanks to Fran for her exceptional leadership of the Skills Board, and also to Kirsten and her team for all the hard work that has gone into developing this strategy. I'm also hugely grateful to the members of our employer-led Skills Board for their time, energies, and passion for this agenda. As many of you know, I work in the education sector myself, and I'm proud to be Managing Director of the Chichester College Group, supporting over 20,000 learners across West Sussex. On a daily basis, I see the importance of enabling people of all ages to access high quality training and its powerful role in enabling social mobility and inclusion. One of the areas you'll hear about today is the bid that I'm proud to be leading to try and secure an Institute of Technology for our region. What excites me about this opportunity is the focus on working in partnership more than we've ever done before, joining up our region's world-class universities, our exceptional colleges, and our wonderful array of employers to provide higher technical skills to meet business needs and support our growth sectors. If successful, this will include a focus on engineering, digital, fintech and medtech. But enough from me. I could talk about the Institute of Technology all day. Thank you again for joining us today. I look forward to your questions in the panel discussion, but I'd now like to hand over to Fran to introduce us to the Skills 360 board. Thanks, Fran.
Thanks, Julie, for your kind words, and hello, everyone. It's great to see that we've got so many of you here today, and to be able to say a slightly more personal hello in my role as chair of the 360 Skills Board, which, as Julie has said, is the Skills Advisory Panel for Coast to Capital. Now, I'm really lucky to be supported in that role by my vice chair, Winston Mahaffrey from Thales, and also by a very wide range of talented individuals from right across the public and private sector businesses, small and large, and also colleagues from further and higher education, as well as the community and voluntary sectors. So I believe that gives the board a really broad knowledge base that we can build on with you. So I wanted to just give you a bit of an overview of the main aims and objectives of the Skills 360 board and what we're all about. It brings together, as I said, employers and skills providers to really get underneath and understand and address the key local skills challenges. One of our aims is to develop a really sound evidence-based analysis which gives a meaningful insight into the kind of support that you as employers really need help with to develop and to deliver and make sure that you're getting the right skills that you need for your employees. Now, you will meet some of the fellow board members later on in the panel discussion, as Julie said earlier. But right now, I'd like to introduce you to the full Skills 360 board through this short video.
Hello, my name is Winston Mahaffrey, and I work for a company called Thales on the Manor Royal Estate in Crawley. Thales is a global technology business operating across aerospace, defence, digital security, transport and space. As a business sector member of the Skills 360 board, my role is to represent the views and interests of businesses and to support the understanding of the current and future skills needs for the Coast to Capital region.
Hello, I'm Alison Addy and I'm the Head of External Engagement and Policy at Gatwick Airport. I represent the aviation sector on the Skills 360 board, and I'm really excited about this opportunity because developing the right skills to support the diverse range of jobs across the airport and businesses related to aviation across the region will be critical to the recovery of the sector and our future success. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jenny Anderson of We Activate the Future and the Really Regenerative Centre. We design learning journeys and host creative innovation labs for leaders wanting to make a shift from sustainability to a more circular living systems model. I joined the Skills Board to help provide a focus on the future, to ensure we meet the needs of industry today and in the emerging future where the skills requirement will be significantly different.
My name is Simon Bland and I'm the Head of Economic Prosperity at Reigate and Marston Borough Council. I'm the local authority representative on the Skills 360 board. My earlier career was in hospitality and catering, and so I also bring experience from that sector to the table. I believe the skills agenda is absolutely vital in helping to ensure the residents of the Coast Capital area have the best life chances and that businesses can improve their productivity.
Hello, I'm Kevin Delph, Chief Executive of Surrey Lifelong Learning Partnership. I'm the representative for the voluntary and community sector on the panel. I'm very keen that those people who are disadvantaged in some way, for example, through having low skills, have the opportunity to gain the skills, to gain good jobs, to contribute to the economy and to benefit from it. And that's my reason for being a member of the panel.
Hello, I'm Christina Dennis. I'm the CEO at WDR, WDR was formed in 1970, and whilst we work nationally and internationally, we are Sussex-based. We're an independent training provider, and that's the sector that I'm representing on the Skills 360 board. I'm committed to supporting the National Skills Agenda, and that's why I'm part of this advisory group.
Hello, my name's Mark Power, and I'm the Director of Workforce and Organisational Development for Sussex Health and Care Partnership. I'm a member of the Skills 360 board to really represent both health and social care, and also to ensure that the many opportunities there are in my sector for skills development and employment support are fully understood and widely accessed.
Hello, I'm Simon Pringle. I'm the founder and CEO of Red River, which is a software business founded in the Coastal Capital region. I represent the digital sector on the Skills 360 board, and I've had a long career in science, technology and IT businesses. I feel I've got a wealth of experience in developing skills in an agile and inventive way, and I'm a real advocate for lifelong learning, for retraining, and for widening the appeal of digital careers.
Good morning, I'm Rob Pye, founder of Ethos, ethosvo.org. We're about 40 people that create organisations for social good. We've got a portfolio of about 10 we're doing at the moment. I'm on the Skills 360 board because I've been working for over 20 years now on the future of work and what life's going to be like when we're all digital. And I want to affect system change, particularly in the type of work that we do as the world moves forward. So I'm a bit of a disruptor and a change agent. Thank you.
My name's Leanne Richardson and I'm the HR Director at Latham Homes. I represent the construction sector and in particular housing development. I joined the Skills 360 board to bring my knowledge and experience of the construction sector to raise the profile and promote the huge range of careers in our industry. I want us to be joined up in our thinking between employers and education providers to ensure we give the very best opportunities to people in the Coastal Capital region.
I'm Jonathan Sharrock, I'm Chief Executive of Coastal Capital. I'm a member of the Skills 360 committee because I understand the importance of skills issues within our regional economy at the moment. We have a particular challenge about adult skilling in the context of COVID and a real desire to deliver the priorities of our skills action plan over the coming months and years.
Hi, I'm Tim Walder. I'm a Senior Director with Arcadis, a global organisation and one of the UK's top design and engineering consultancies. I represent the construction industry on the Skills 360 board. I'm on the board as I have a passion to help all generations, but especially the next generation, to have the opportunity of a career they enjoy and be who they want to be in an inclusive society. And the TASH is for Movember Awareness of Men's Health.
Hello, I'm Ruth Whittaker. I'm the Pro-Vice Chancellor Education and Students at the University of Brighton, and I'm on the Skills 360 board to represent the university sector. And my role on the board is to really ensure that universities are finding ways to support the local skills agenda, not just through what we're teaching, through our curriculum and our provision, but through developing more flexible pathways to provide more opportunities for learners to access higher education. And obviously a key part of that is ensuring effective partnership working between providers, between universities and colleges, as well as, of course, with employers.
Wow, so I think you can see that the Skills 360 board now is really well established with a very strong group of members. We've carried out pretty substantive research and analysis over the last 18 months. And we think we've developed a really in-depth understanding of the needs of the local economy. And we've recently published our skills strategy and action plan, and you'll hear a little bit more from us about that in a moment. But we really believe that with clear direction and focus, the Skills 360 board can see a real opportunity for strong leadership around skills in the area. Now, as we implement the skills strategy, the board will be working really hard with you to get great engagement from employers, education providers, central, local government and the third sector. And we really want to encourage collaboration in leveraging the kind of investment that the region needs in skills to help us move on from the impact of COVID-19, our exit from the EU and in fact 20 years of economic stagnation really. So we've recently introduced the role of board champions and they will support work in key sectors and opportunities and really help us to make sure that we're doing our very best in areas such as diversity, inclusivity and stakeholder engagement. Now, before I go any further, I'd really love to tell you about our interactive chat. We're very keen to hear from you and to have you share your thoughts with us on how the Skills 360 board can offer leadership for the Coastal Capital region. And one way you can do that is by using the chat box now. So thanks for participating. There are already some really interesting questions in there and some thoughts for us to consider. Don't worry if you feel a bit shy today. You will get a further opportunity to share your thoughts with us because we'll be sending out a feedback questionnaire after this event. So please do contribute then if you want to. So to sum up, the size of the employment and skills challenge in the Coastal Capital region is not one that the Skills 360 board could or should face alone, and nor should you. You probably don't need me to tell you that we're in unprecedented times and the size of the employment and skills challenge that we all face is really daunting. As I said, it's not something any of us can really work on effectively in isolation. So collaboration is going to be the key to our success here. And we want to co-create, pilot and deliver projects with you and other stakeholders and partners. From the beginning, really, the 360 Skills Board was juggling with some pretty major external issues. And I've already mentioned our exit from the EU, climate change and other disruptive factors around automation and digitalisation. These are really challenging issues, but then to top that, COVID-19 came along. And we all know how that's changed things. So we're now facing one of the largest global recessions in a very long time, and the potential for mass unemployment and an accelerated pace of change in the way that we all do business, in the way that we live, work and shop. So the Skills 360 board's thought about each of these external influences alongside the more ingrained sort of structural challenges that we have in the region. And that's what's gone into producing our skills strategy and action plan. So it sets out our priorities as a board to 2025 and the proposed activities that we'll be undertaking with you to address those local skills challenges and to really help support not just in the shorter term recovery, but in longer term resilience. I'm now going to hand over to Kirsten Trussell. Kirsten is the Head of Strategy and Policy at Coastal Capital, and she's going to give you a little bit more detail around that action plan. Thank you, Kirsten.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Fran. It's really, as Fran said, it's really good to have you all here today. I really wish that we were in the same room so that I could see you all. Zoom and Teams are great, and they're part of the way forward for us. But they work in situations like this, making it easier for you to attend. But for me, I'd rather be looking at you than my presentation. So many of you will know us well. But for those of you who are less familiar, and I think there are a fair few of you in the audience today, it's great to have you. I wanted to put these discussions into context geographically, showing the diversity of the area both in terms of landscape and settlements. So Coastal Capital is the local enterprise partnership for the area covering the 4 districts and boroughs of East Surrey, the county of West Sussex and the city of Brighton and Hove. And as you'll see, we have a mix of urban, coastal and rural settlements. A lot of West Sussex and parts of East Surrey are very rural. And our largest settlement is Brighton and Hove. And you can see from the map that we're really well connected both to London and internationally via Gatwick Airport. And the role of the LEP is to provide strategic leadership that will drive the sustainable economic success of the region. So I'm really glad that you've been able to meet the Skills 360 board members today. And happy that we were able to put that video together for you. This photo is from our 9th and most recent virtual meeting. And I hope you can all see from the beaming smiles that our meetings are a fun place to be. So in terms of leadership, so Fran talked about the importance of board leadership in her welcome. And we've heard that message from some of our stakeholders very recently. And to help with that, we've introduced the role of board champions in order to put a spotlight on the specific areas of focus or sectors and to take forward our work. Now, Fran mentioned this. I just wanted to go into a little bit more detail. So you'll see that we have a champion for equality, diversity and inclusion. And Tim Walder from Arcadis is leading on this for us. We're really excited by some of his initial thinking. He's leading on this for Arcadis as well. And this is a key priority for Coastal Capital at the moment. And it was a priority for us that this translates through into the work of the Skills 360 board. You'll have heard, if any of you attended our AGM, you'll have heard Julie talk about equality, diversity and inclusion at great length. And as you'll see, we have a couple of vacancies. So the board has agreed to recruit an additional business representative from horticulture and or viticulture, which is the winemaking sector. So we'll be recruiting for that soon. And we hope to recruit from the existing board for the Green Champion. And Tim and Leanne, our construction sector champions, recently presented to the board, and we'll be following this up with a spotlight on the construction sector to explore how we can make the most of the employment opportunities now and into the future. And we see construction and health and care as two of the sectors, along with perhaps sort of some of the green technologies as the sectors where we can see employment for the foreseeable future. We'll be talking with each of our board champions in the new year to understand their thinking, and I expect it to lead to opportunities for us to engage with you and other stakeholders. So we first launched our Skills Strategy and Action Plan in September at our AGM. It was produced by the Skills 360 board, the Skills Advisory Panel for the area, and is the result, as Fran mentioned, of significant research, analysis, engagement and consultation pre-COVID, and then a further impact assessment post the first lockdown. So all skills advisory panels, and there are 38 of them around the country matching up with the LEP areas, we've been asked to produce a local skills report, the first of which is due in 2021, March 2021, and it'll be updated in November. And after that, it will be an annual document. We've got agreement from the Department for Education to refresh this skills strategy and action plan to be rebranded as our local skills report. And for the March publication, we'll update our local data, reflect our progress, set out next steps and include case studies. And these skills reports, very importantly, are going to feed into a national skills and productivity board, which is a committee of expert analysts who will provide evidence-based advice to ministers at the Department for Education. So what did our research tell us? And I think it was Julie that touched on this in her introduction. So as we've mentioned, we've done a considerable amount of work over the last 2 years to understand our economy and our local skills and labour market, probably more than we have in a very long time. One of the most significant things that we learned from our research is depicted on this graph, and it was quite a stark learning for us. And it sets out one of the very specific challenges facing the employment and skills landscape of our region. So often we talk about ageing populations and how we've got more older people than other areas. Well, for us, it's very different. It's a significant gap in our 20 to 40-year-old working age population. And this has resulted in quite severe recruitment challenges for many of our businesses, large and small. And we've seen that in our data, but we also hear it anecdotally from the businesses as well. This is going to be exacerbated by our exit from the EU and its impact on the available labour market. And our research also reinforced what we knew, that we have a highly skilled and entrepreneurial workforce and a broad-based sector mix. Of particular challenge are the skills gaps that we face in specific occupations, most specifically those related to science, engineering and technology, and persistent pockets of lower skills, particularly along the coast and in Crawley. And then along came COVID. So the challenges I set out previously still remain, but we're now faced with profound impact on the coastal capital economy as a result of our reliance on the aviation and service sectors. It's estimated that GVA, which is the measure of value of goods and services produced in an area, so the GVA in the coastal capital area could drop between 12 to 17% in 2020. Crawley is likely to be the place most exposed to the crisis in the country, and with as many as 53,000 jobs there classified as vulnerable because of its dependency on sectors related to Gatwick Airport. As of June this year, 1/3 of the economically active population in the coastal capital area had been directly impacted by COVID and in receipt of government support of one kind or another. As you can see from this graph, with the green line showing 2020 and the pink 2019, the numbers of job seekers claiming benefits in the coastal capital area peaked in May, which reflects the impact of the first lockdown. It's remained fairly static since, dropping marginally by October. We'd expect to see an increase in these numbers following the most recent lockdown and the tier system that's been introduced. And if the furlough scheme and other support initiatives end in March as planned, then it's likely that the unemployment rate will rise significantly. And in terms of job availability, by June 2020, unique vacancies across the region had dropped 30% since lockdown. So the colours are the same, so green 2020, pink 2019. However, we can see that there's been a steady increase in job postings between July and October, around about 25%. From our research, we can see that this increase has been across most occupations, not sectors, with the greatest rises, unsurprisingly, in the health and care occupations. And only time will tell what the long-term impact of COVID is going to be on the economy. And in the meantime, we'll be updating our skills and labour market impact assessment on a quarterly basis. And you'll find that on our website and through social media, and we'll be publishing that in our newsletter. So the Skills 360 board was close to producing its strategy and action plan at the beginning of this year. However, when COVID hit, we knew that we needed to pause and review the likely impact on the economy and our priorities. So the Skills 360 board has identified, and they had identified, two overarching priorities to support the short to medium term recovery and future resilience of our economy, people and business. Whilst these priorities remain the same, it was obvious that we needed to expand our focus to ensure support for those people most vulnerable to the impact of COVID, such as young people, low-skilled adults and older workers. It's important to tailor our recovery planning to the requirements of our local labour market, targeting the different needs and opportunities of each place, leveraging local knowledge, business partnerships and existing resources. Our focus pre-COVID was on addressing our skills gaps and building talent pipelines of young people through finding out about work and supporting the existing workforce to stay in work by ensuring opportunities for progression or career moves. COVID meant that we needed to reassess, and from the evidence that we were seeing, it quickly became apparent that we would need to give extra emphasis to young people starting out in work and to those unemployed and recently redundant to get back into work. The activities that we've set out are varied and include potential new initiatives, as well as prioritising areas for future funding opportunities, such as the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. There are too many to talk to today, but the Skills Strategy and Action Plan is on our website, and we'll follow up with a link to that after this event. To address our key challenges, the board identified three transformational projects that would have medium to long-term outcomes for the area. One of those is the creation of a careers hub, an extension of our existing enterprise advisor network, which we deliver in partnership with the Careers and Enterprise Company. The Careers Hub will support young people's career development and focus on all 8 of the Gatsby benchmarks that are set out in the National Careers Strategy, in contrast to the 2 that we focus on for the wider Enterprise Advisor Network. We launched phase 1 of the Careers Hub in September, working with 35 schools and colleges in Mid Sussex, East Surrey and Crawley, and are keen to explore how we roll out this model to the rest of the region in the very near future. The Hub is supported by a group of 6 cornerstone employers, including Waits, Arcadis, Thackham Homes, Sussex Health and Care Partnership, Surrey Wildlife Trust and Thameslink Govia. Leanne from Thackham Homes is the Skills 360 board sponsor for this project, as she is one of our enterprise advisors on the Enterprise Advisor Network and has recently been appointed as the chair of the Careers Hub steering group. We're grateful to those stakeholders in the audience who are part of that steering group and for their ongoing support and challenge. If you'd like to find out more, we're launching the Careers Hub on the 8th of December, so next week. We love events, and you can register at the link on the slide, and I hope somebody's going to put it in the chat for you as well. An opportunity that's arisen since the publication of our strategy is the chance to be one of 6 pilot areas around the country to develop a model for skills provision that will decarbonise homes and help achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Along with the rest of the country, we see this as a key job creation area for the future and are pleased to be at the forefront of developing the plans needed to produce a skilled workforce. It's very much in the early stages, and we're working with the Energy Systems Catapult nationally to develop a plan that we can then roll out across the coastal capital and wider southeast. Our second priority is business, and this has taken on an even greater significance than before COVID. So our Growth Hub is supporting businesses with the challenges of COVID and EU exit, as amongst many other things, in many different ways, but it includes a particular focus on skills, which is a new aspect really for the Growth Hub. And in relation to workforce skills, we have a bespoke questionnaire that our growth relationship managers will use when meeting with businesses. They can then refer to our dedicated growth champion who has a particular focus on workforce and workforce development, or signpost to one of our many partner organisations. We're currently developing a business-focused skills portal on the Growth Hub website, and we'll let you know as soon as that's launched. We're also running peer-to-peer network programmes which offer peer support in areas that the businesses identify themselves, including skills and workforce development. And this is a national initiative which we're pleased has been developed with the learning from our very successful Escalator programme that we ran last year with businesses. And to make the most of digital, we're currently exploring a digital champion pilot with West Sussex County Council, which will be supporting businesses to be delivered in partnership with the Growth Hub. Now, Julie's already very excitedly, and quite rightly so, talked to you about the Institute of Technology. This is another of our 3 transformational projects, and it supports our aspiration, and if you look back to this slide, to be of working together. And it's there to support the development of high level skills much needed by our businesses. And it's a government backed initiative, comes from the Department for Education. And there are capital monies available to build a physical presence in our area to deliver these high level skills. And we're really pleased as a Skills 360 board to be supporting a first stage proposal by a consortia of universities and colleges led by the Chichester College Group. And in that consortia at the moment are Nescott College, Chichester College Group, University of Brighton and University of Sussex. That's to get through this first stage application. If the bid, which we very much hope is successful, then the consortia will be reaching out to wider partners, and that partnership will very much include businesses. They're core to the delivery of the Institute of Technology. And I think, as Julie mentioned, its key areas of focus will be digital and advanced engineering. And that's in response to the evidence that we've developed in our research. And it will be based on a hub and spoke model with the central hub in Crawley. The third of our 3 transformational projects is the creation of an innovation centre. Coast Capital has many very entrepreneurial and innovative businesses. However, our research shows us that we're not benefiting from that innovation as we should be, and that we're missing a vital innovation ecosystem. Much of the innovation happens along the coast, supported by the 3 universities and several innovation centres. We identified an opportunity in the Crawley area, supported by the presence of large advanced manufacturing and engineering firms, to extend the innovation ecosystem and to establish an innovation centre that would fuse the expertise of those companies in Crawley, those large advanced manufacturing and engineering companies, with creative and digital entrepreneurs and SMEs in the rest of the region. We were successful in an application to government's Getting Building Fund, and I'm pleased to say that Coast Capital, Crawley Borough Council and Thales UK are working together at the moment to develop the USP and the operating model and to secure other partners, including industry and higher education. The centre is vitally important to the success of the area moving forward, as it will help diversify our sectors away from an over-reliance on aviation and support the regeneration of Crawley and the surrounding area. And finally, I just wanted to touch on how we will deliver the plan. So whilst we've produced a plan that spans 5 years from 2020 to 2025, we see it as a living document that will be formally reviewed annually as part of our local skills report. But as we all know from all too recent experience, 5 years is a long time and circumstances can change overnight. Flexibility is going to be particularly important in terms of recovery. We all need to accept that our plans might change as new pressures or ideas emerge. Whilst we have some areas of immediate focus, and I hope to bring forward more of those as thinking emerges, several of which we've talked about today, some of the activities are longer term to address our more structural challenges and will have longer term outcomes. And as you'll all know, government has its plan for jobs, and we will of course be supporting those initiatives along with apprenticeships, T-levels, etc. Currently, we have many projects being delivered through our European Social Fund allocation, details of which you can find on our website, and many of those are very much supporting people and businesses with recovery. We've successfully bid for more funding from the central pot of ESF that's remaining to support more recovery projects, and we hope to translate that into funding calls by DWP, they're the managing authority, the beginning of, in late January, early February. And as I've already mentioned, we've received Getting Building Fund, the Innovation Centre, and we hope to hear more about the UK Shared Prosperity Fund in the near future. In the meantime, please keep developing ideas for projects. We really, our way forward at the moment is to build a pipeline of projects, and we very much want to see those coming forward ready for when funding becomes available. And we're happy to talk to you about those. And each of you will have your own priorities in relation to skills. And of course, they'll be specific to your place or your customers or your businesses. And what is important is that we work together to share information and good practice, to develop pilot opportunities and to bring the most investment into the area that we can. We engage with many of you already, and there will be future opportunities to engage as we move further into the delivery of the action plan. We reach out via our networks, partners, social media and newsletters. So all that remains is to thank you for listening, and I hope that gave you a great insight into our strategy and action plan. I can't go into all of the detail, and as I say, it's there for you to read and explore, but please don't hesitate to contact me or my team if you want to discuss opportunities for collaboration. So I'd now like to hand over to Jenny Anderson, who you met earlier, one of our board members that who is our board champion for stakeholder conversations and has kindly agreed to facilitate a panel discussion with some of our board members. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Kirsten, for that. So we've convened a panel discussion between several of our skills board members today to share some more information on the different contexts that affect the skills landscape and how we thought about those, how we feel we've responded to those, to share more information on the process and our thinking around the challenges, particularly of prioritization and hard decisions. But mainly to address the questions that you've kindly sent in advance to the panel. And also I can see some questions coming in both in the chat and in the Q&A. So if you have, having listened to Fran, having listened to Kirsten and to Julie, if there are any other burning questions that you have, please do pop them in the Q&A or the chat box and we'll try to get to them. We've got a discussion for about 20 to 30 minutes between the panel, and then we'll get to some of the specific questions that you have asked us. So let's get stuck in. Let me introduce our panel members to you. Jonathan Sharrock, who is the CEO of Coaster Capital, is going to join us for this discussion. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hi.
And Fran is coming back, who's the chair of our Skills Advisory Board. You've already met her today.
Hello again.
And we're also joined by Leanne Richardson, who is the HR Director of Thacum Group.
Hello.
Hey, Leanne. And by Rob Pye, who is the co-founder of Ethos, who you also met in the video earlier.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, so we have some fabulous questions in earlier, so thank you to everyone who sent their questions in. But I'd like to go back and start maybe with some context again, which both Fran, Julie, and and Kirsten have spoken about, which is the context of the landscape. So back in 2019, in January, when the Skills Board formed, we were really focused on understanding the skills landscape and the gaps that would impact our economic future, and Brexit at the time, obviously. And 12 months into developing that strategy, COVID pandemic hit us. So we've had a lot of questions on how we've developed the overall strategy and how we've picked the areas of focus that we have. But I'd just first like perhaps to ask you, Jonathan, how did you see that the emerging data from the landscape, the threat of Brexit and then COVID, did it really change our thinking or the underlying challenges we faced at all, and how did it change those?
Thanks, Jenny. Well, it's been a really sort of tricky year, hasn't it? And I think what the events you've just described have done is pile problem upon problem. But if we go right back to what we understood before any of us had even heard of COVID, we were becoming increasingly worried about our economy. And people often describe the complacency of the Southeast economy and the fact that we're losing our competitiveness compared to other parts of the UK and internationally. And many of those issues were illustrated in Kirsten's presentation. I think the one that worries me most is the demographic challenge. You know, it's not so much that we're an older region, because plenty of areas have got older people. It's that we just don't have enough younger working age people. People who aren't actually that young, you know, people in their 20s and 30s are fundamental to a competitive, flexible economy. And as Kirsten's slide showed, many people of that age are choosing not to live here. We can all speculate on why that is, but I think if you start from that place, it's difficult. When you factor in this over-reliance on commuting that we had before the crisis, you know, far too many people lived in the region and worked in London. That was a problem. And many of the others worked in and around the airport, which is not bad in itself because the airport's a fantastic employer. But, you know, we were probably over-reliant on Gatwick in the regional economy. Of course, what COVID has done is create a lot of problems to that basis. And so, you know, as we go into 2021, we can see a significant number of challenges in the skills base. And I think it's one of our biggest challenges as a region.
Yeah, definitely. I think we would all agree with that. And in many ways, that our challenges in the skills landscape haven't changed that much, but they've been exacerbated by layer upon layer of major challenges coming forwards. And I wonder how, Fran, perhaps, how would you say the skills strategy and action plan really specifically answers the challenges of that landscape of Brexit and COVID?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. I think Jonathan's absolutely right. And what he said it is layer upon layer. But when we started back out in the beginning of 2019, you know, we were very focused on how we were going to deliver the skills strategy that would help to deliver a local industrial strategy. Well, that hasn't really actually changed or gone away. And as other colleagues have already said, you know, it's just been exacerbated. So I think it's not just now a case of supporting young people to find out about what their employment opportunities are, or helping to keep people in work and keeping them developing through their career. But also to really think about how we get younger people into work, what the options are for them there now. And probably very importantly, in particular areas around the coastal capital region now, what we do to support people back into employment who've been made redundant. And so looking, I think, from all ends of the spectrum, through the priorities of the Skills Action Plan, whether it's the Careers Hub in helping schools, colleges, young people understand what their options are and where they can go, right through to the very high-end digital skills, which we see in the Innovation Centre with the Institute of Technology sat there in the middle. So the thing that strikes me through all of these conversations and the questions that we've seen popping up through the course of today is very much around that digital technology, that digital economy, and how we're helping to support that. So I'm hoping some of what Kirsten's talked about through her presentation will have given some of those answers, but it is from the very outset knowing what your options are as a young person, right through to how you upskill and reskill through the course of your career, and us knowing that as providers, the key to that is digital and in some cases some very high level digital skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we were looking at developing the strategy, you know, we definitely faced some challenges in selecting those strategic priorities. And I can see from the questions that we've got here, I think Sarah Bennett from West Sussex, you're with us. Andrew Adams, I'm not sure if I've seen him, from Chichester, have had some pretty challenging questions to us about how we've made those choices. So I wonder if we could shed some light on how we addressed what is a perennial challenge for our quite stretched and quite diverse region that we represent. So how did we address the needs of the whole region, east to west, north to coastal, and the wide varieties of industries from aviation to agriculture? And I wonder, Rob, if you'd like to say a little bit about that.
Okay, maybe before, I just want to add a point to the previous one, if I can, which was, I don't know how long ago it was we established ourselves as a skills board. It was a good year or so, Jonathan, and we came as a sort of initial group, which was recommended that the government set up these skills advisory panels, and there was quite a lot of traction, momentum, inertia behind the sort of process we were going through at that point. And producing the skills strategy was a fairly proscriptive process where we took a massive ONS data, information from a huge number of sources, but there was a fairly prescribed path to take for that. And Jonathan's right in terms of, a lot of the data from the region, from ONS and elsewhere, was self-evident in terms of the gaps that we have, particularly in this region. But the context for change was in some ways fairly limited. So in leading up to answer your question about, how do we address the diverse needs of the region, COVID really changed everything for everybody, in that it's kind of, for all of us, challenged all of our assumptions about the way that we experience life. And the green agenda and Boris bringing forward electric vehicles and the whole kind of macro context means that there is an opportunity to rethink. So in our little bubble in Coastal Capital, what I've seen is that we stepped into a framework, and we now have an opportunity to do what we need through collaboration that represents all of the parts of the region and their very wide-ranging needs. So a great practical example of that I've seen from last board meeting to the very first one is that we're building very empowered networks on behalf of each industry sector to say, right, construction, what do you want to do with skills? And we've had an absolutely fantastic presentation from our construction. It's probably better me saying it because I'm not a construction, so Leanne can blush there on the other side of the video, rather than saying, look, I delivered a fantastic presentation. And therefore, as constituents in the region, you've got like about 100 more points to interface to express your needs, whether you're an SME, sole contractor, or an enormous business like Gatwick or Thales.
Do feel free to add to that, Leanne, because now that Rob has bigged up your sector in the conversation, I think that, you know, when we were considering how best to address the diversity, I think actually what came through strongly is how each individual sector has strengths and weaknesses, but there were some commonalities across all of them that we needed to look at.
Absolutely, and I mean the conversations and the networking that came out of the presentation that we did as a spotlight on construction in our last board meeting was so refreshing. It gained momentum and energy, and we actually developed out of that. We're developing some actual real action that will hopefully make a real difference to attracting people to the construction sector.
And so I just want to remind everybody that's listening in today that a quick reminder that there are champions for almost every sector that's represented in the region. Do reach out to us because we're really keen to hear back from you and to develop specific collaborations that support your sectors. So do get in touch with us, with the specific supporters. But let me come back to that. Sorry, Jonathan.
Jen, can I just add?
Sorry, Frances.
Can I just add to what Rob was saying? I think, you know, one of the expressions we used in some of those conversations that Leanne was talking about, and we found ourselves saying it time and time again, was you can't boil the ocean. And the ocean of Coast Capital is just such a hugely diverse economy. And I know that's something that is a tricky thing that's we've talked about for more than just the time that the Skills Advisory Panel's been in existence. But what we do see time and time again are continual themes coming out around employability skills and around digital particularly. So in trying to meet the needs of everybody in such a diverse economy, that's how we kind of landed up with the three I would say key priorities, and they are medium to long-term aims. But and again, you know, geographically, it's a big area. It covers a lot of square miles, and so how do we reach out to everybody in that space? And I think what we've got is in some ways focused around particular areas geographically, but we talked about that hub and spoke model, which will then help to spread those ideas. For example, the Careers Hub may be based around sort of the northern area of Coast Capital, but if it's successful, which it will be rolled out across the rest of the Coast Capital region. So it's not a case of what, but when.
Yeah, and I think that's key, isn't it? That we're taking an approach where we're testing and we're iterating and we're rolling out across the region the specific projects that we have chosen. So our aim is that these projects should reach the whole region over a period of time.
May I come in, Jenny?
And yeah, do.
It is about geography. It's a good question, but actually I think geography is only one part of the mix. You know, as a lot of the questions show us, we're going through this huge transformation in the economy at the moment. You know, they say COVID's delivered like a decade of change in 10 months. And many of the sectors that are on the rise, things like healthcare, as one of the questioners points out, the IT sector, and others, you know, at the same time, there's many sectors on the decline, and we can see this huge change that's going through the retail sector, to just take one example. And that's not easy to pigeonhole geographically, but it is fundamentally a skills issue, because, you know, if I've just lost my job in Debenhams and I'm thinking about how am I going to retrain as a nurse, or how am I going to retrain in the tech sector, you know, I'm going to be looking for high quality, accessible, affordable training and skilling. And frankly, I think there's quite a lot of evidence that people will travel, and people will actually make a lot of sacrifices to be able to find that training wherever it may be, rather than just having it in the local area. So our approach needs to be working within the footprint of skills providers, but we've also got to remember that this economy is moving really, really quickly, and some parts of our region, traditionally really successful, they might have a few difficult years ahead of them. Some parts will continue to be successful. And, you know, so I think flexibility in our strategy and flexibility in the delivery of that is one of the things we've done as well as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'd all agree with that, in that, you know, whilst data is coming through and we're keeping a strong focus on data and trends, nobody can say yet, it's still very early days after the shock of COVID to our economies, exactly what the long-term changes that are going to stick are going to be across sectors, across the region, across how people are going to want to work in the future. You know, that's been a significant change. I would imagine all of our participants today on the panel and in the audience have experienced in their neighbourhood significant change in the way patterns of people work. You know, myself, I have been worked from home for a long time, but I now have neighbours who finally actually understand my lifestyle because they have been able to do that themselves. And I don't think there'll be any rapid desire to go back to the commuter landscape of going to London from our area, which actually is a great opportunity for us, I think. Let me move on to another key question that has been coming up regularly in the early questions, and I can see again in the chat box, which is really very much around the issue of collaboration. You know, we have all talked about how important collaboration between business leaders and the education sector is, and between Coast to Capital and all of our stakeholders. So we have several questions from Denise Vine, Arran District Council, Martin Carr, I think you're both with us today, Duncan Edwards from West Sussex. I haven't seen Duncan in the participants list, which are really about how are we creating a coordinated approach across the region between our strategy and the actions of local authorities and integrating with curriculum development. So maybe I'll come to you firstly on that, Fran. You need to unmute.
Sorry, Jenny, I do need to unmute, and I need you to ask me the question again. I was being directed to look at a question that somebody has put up in the chat box that I was told I could answer directly. I was too busy reading that rather than listening to you.
No worry, that's okay. You'll have to owe me something for that, for that lack of focus. So the question was, how are we creating a coordinated approach across the region between our strategy, the actions of local authorities, and integrating with curriculum development?
Oh, okay, so that's sort of linked to the question that I was way too busy looking at. Let me just close that down.
That's okay.
And I'll get that distraction out of the way. So I think that's why we've got such a diverse range of people on the skills advisory panel for a start. So we do have local government represented there, and we do have other education providers, both from the private sector and from the non-private sector are involved. But how do we make that link is really important. And I've been saying the time that I've been in education, you know, we're here to get young people particularly, but adults as well, into or back into work with a different and new skill set. So we have to have that link to employers to make that work. So really important at the beginning of the journey for anybody coming into a learning journey is the advice and information that they get. But at the other end is having an employer or a range of employers and a choice of employment opportunities at the end, and a skill set that meets the needs of those employers. Now, we can only do that if we get employers much closer to education providers, or our job stops the moment that student leaves the college or the school or wherever it is. But it doesn't stop there, and it can't and it shouldn't stop there. So one of the things we've started piloting with Coast Capital at Nescot is for them to sit in on our curriculum planning process. So every year we have to have a look at our curriculum offer. Is it still current, relevant, in demand? Does it meet employer needs? Does it need tweaking? Do we drop stuff? Do we bring new stuff online? What does that look like? Whether that's FE or HE or through the adult education budgets. And so we're constantly looking at the kind of data that Coast Capital gathered through the labour market and skills gap analysis, both before COVID and for the COVID recovery response. And as an organisation, we're trying to analyse that data ourselves to say, okay, what are the employment needs? What are the employer needs out there now? How do we make sure that our young people can get a job when they leave college because they've got the right skills? So it just made sense to me to pick up the phone to Coast Capital to say, okay, well, we want to completely look afresh at our curriculum. It's a fantastic opportunity now. So would you sit in with us when we're talking to our teachers, our day-to-day providers, the people who decide what's going to be on offer next year, and work with us to establish, actually, are we making the right offer to the world? So we're going to pilot that at Nescot over the coming months. So that's a little bit of watch this space, but ultimately I think that's a conversation that training providers, whether they're private or otherwise, should be having with the LEP. So we'll let you know how that goes. And I think hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it's a good. We've made a good start there. I think also, one of the things that we have to think about as the board is exactly as you've approached Coast Capital to look at piloting a new scheme is, what are we asking our people who are attending today's webinar? What are we asking from them? And Rob, in terms of collaboration, Rob, I know you had something that you wanted to say there. I could see you waving.
Yeah, there might have been a bit of a delay on the wave. So I just wanted to add a context point, if I might, before the collaboration bit, which is, the Coast Capital. This isn't a moan. It's context. So Coast Capital is a small organisation that has a small budget, for its permanent staff, and they're run ragged, and it's got quite a, looking at the video of the board, you kind of go, wow, what an immense capability there. The board are all unpaid volunteers, that are probably all doing a bit more than we can afford to in terms of our organisations and the other pressures in our life. And so one of the questions that I think precedes that collaboration one is, how do we leverage the network in terms of Coast Capital to so every minute of our time or every hour can actually, lead to lots of joint working in the community. And what we've been through recently with the appointment of industry or people taking lead on particular challenges they're passionate about is a potentially really good leverage mechanism. So rightly so, Coast Capital have got 3 or 4 massive projects, and good luck with that, guys. Institute of Technology and all that. These are heavy lifting projects, and there's about 400 other initiatives that that we're all involved in, as part of Coast Capital, which increasingly give people places to plug into. It just reminds me of I was on the board of something called Tech UK for a number of years, which is essentially a national trade association for the ICT industry. And they did a really good job lobbying government. And Jonathan, I know, is worried about the sort of north-south, divide in terms of, the agenda of all the money going to HS2 in the north. And actually, we've got some big problems here. If you were to join up the network, that exists in Coast to Capital, and actually our job on the board was to kind of throw stones in the water, not do a lot of work. So look, how do we put together a lobby to the government to do that? And rather than it being top down, you get a lot of working groups who you just give permission to, you know, on behalf of the region, set up a working group on construction, you know, on skills, and go forth and do something for the CITB or whoever you want to do it with, and you know, you have permission. And we did a lot of that in it was called it is now called Tech UK. It was called Intellect back in the day. So anyway, I mean, there's so many things we could do, but I would just ask for a bit of forgiveness on behalf of Coast to Capital, in that, you know, we're tiny, we're volunteers, and Coast to Capital as an organisation is a real SME. You know, it's a few willing paid staff, but a lot of unpaid volunteers.
And I think what our message is, as supporting the board and really wanting to develop a strong skills strategy for the future, is about the power of networking, the power of conversations. I think I can say that as the board member for stakeholder conversations, that it's been much more difficult for us all to have the kind of conversations we might have in the coffee break at a conference, those face-to-face meetings that we haven't been able to have. But conversations and bringing small groups with specific focuses together who want to approach us and say, we have an idea, how can we work together, how can we support that, we really encourage. I think the power of the network of education providers and businesses that we have in the Southeast, we have to recognise that the government agenda will currently be to focus more on the North and the Midlands. So we have to absolutely leverage the strengths that we have here. Jonathan, you wanted to say something?
You've put it very well, Jenny, and to offer another interpretation of it, you know, this Coast to Capital's not, we're not the civil service, you know, we're not here to deliver stuff apart from when government asks us to. We take a partnership approach, and actually the most successful partnership approach is about identifying things that work really well and supporting them and broadcasting them. So we always want to meet businesses, sectors, entrepreneurs, you know, who've found a way of cracking their skills challenge, so that we can learn from it and promote it. And you know, that Rob mentions the construction sector, which we talked about before. We could talk about the transport sector, the wine sector, and all across the region, you know, various employers who take the initiative in going to their local schools and colleges and finding the workforce, and you know, making sure that people know the opportunities that are there. We're all going to have to get a lot better at that, because all across the region there are people whose jobs they've done for many years aren't there anymore, and who are all going to need to, you know, upgrade their skills, retrain, find a new future. And the government isn't going to step in and do this for us. This is about us helping the economy work as well as we can. Yeah. Thank you.
It's about us being proactive. It's about us being imaginative. It's about us really drawing deeply on the potential of co-creative collaboration across the region, I think. Before we run out of time, I'd like to come to some very specific questions that are coming in and pop them to each of you. Stephanie White from Oakwood School, I'm not sure if Stephanie is with us, had a really interesting question, which is very COVID focused. In what way is it envisaged that schools will be helped in the current COVID situation to engage with employers? Leanne, I wonder if I could pop that to you.
Absolutely. So I think there's several ways through the Careers and Enterprise Network. So the Enterprise Network means that every secondary school has an enterprise coordinator who are there to support them. And then there's a business volunteer who becomes their enterprise advisor for that school. And by working together with them and building that relationship, they can get advice and support on how to create those meaningful employer experiences, even during this time with COVID. I also think with the Careers Hub is creating a network with regard to the cornerstone employers. So there's going to be more information on best practice, innovative ideas and projects, which again will support that employer engagement with local organisations. And I think I'm really passionate about making sure that relationships are meaningful and for both parties. So not only the schools, but also the employers. I think there's lots of mutual benefit there, but they need to work together. They need to understand each other. They need to be able to build those relationships so that they've got more of an understanding of the challenges that each of them face, because we've all got challenges no matter where we work. And by building on those relationships in a long-term way, we can give lots and lots of support to schools, but also to employers. So I would say to reach out to your to the Enterprise Advisor Network.
Thanks, Leanne. I think hopefully, Stephanie, that answered your question. We've got a very specific question, a digital question. I hope I'm going to pronounce your name correctly. Is it Lorraine Grant or Lorraine Grant? You can correct me in the chat if I apologise if I got that wrong. From the London Enterprise Advisory Network. Rob, I might pass this one to you. I think you're our digital whiz. So how will artificial intelligence affect the labour markets in the near future? What will the displacement be, for example, in the manufacturing industry? Will people lose their jobs, and what can we do about that?
Yeah, they have to be careful with the answer to this question, because if I get on one, then it might go on and on and on.
Don't worry, I'll interrupt you.
So I want to just say artificial intelligence is easy to conjure up the picture of the robot, the sentient, algorithms that are all thinking human substitutes. And, the reality is far from that. The reality is that, there is a continual shift in what automation, robots, artificial intelligence, natural language processing can do for the world. And that's a shift that, is expanding at an increasing rate every day. So the answer is yes, it is going to displace existing jobs. And if you look in our region, at Southern Rail, as an example, with the doors closing, they ended up making everybody redundant and getting rid of all that, because by the way, the robots and computers could look out with the video cameras, they could sense whether someone's getting crushed, and so from a union perspective, if you look at a particular role, then the roles are going to be displaced. One of my favorite global skills surveys is from the World Economic Forum. They've just published I think 3-year an update, and according to all the biggest employers in the world, about 50%, 50, of all jobs in the next 5 years are going to be displaced in some way by AI. Now, of course, then you could go into schools of thought. We're all going to be unemployed. There's not going to be any work for anyone. The world's ending and I'm going to give up. I'm definitely not in that church. I'm in the other one that says, actually, anecdotal, pre-COVID, pre the destruction of the high street and where we are now, pre-COVID, the global figures was that the automation, robotization of the world, AI, so far has had a net nothing effect on global employment. Why? Because we define what is human simply as what is not AI. And that boundary about what is human is, what I'm going to be doing tomorrow that the robots were doing for me yesterday. So I think it's a really interesting psychological challenge rather than an industrial one, because we have to conceive what our roles are in the future work to be what the robots are not doing for us. So yes, it will displace. Will there be new types of jobs? Absolutely. Will COVID generate new kinds of e-commerce and digital engagement? And absolutely yes. So that's probably as short an answer as I've ever given in my life to that sort of question. But I love the question. Thank you.
I think also there is an element of us all remembering that constant, the one constant in all our current disruption is always change. I'm sure it felt in employment terms quite disruptive to people who owned horse and carts when the first car came along. Everything does change. I think one of the things that we do need to foster a lot more is not just imagination, but also confidence in the future that we can roll with the changes that are coming at us. And I think we've all learned a lot during this period of this year about how to live, work and think through uncertainty. And I think that applies really strongly to the digital environment of AI, network sensors, exponential computing. We may not understand it, but we don't have to fear it, for example.
And I haven't mentioned, I'm interrupting,
I'm going off on myself.
But Leanne, you know, and construction, because I haven't mentioned Leanne for about 2 minutes, was, you know, talking about that digital disruption in construction. And it is a big issue where the way you build houses in future is going to be much more like Lego. You're going to have what's called off-site manufacturing and modern methods of construction. So, you know, you build it in a factory and then you'll assemble the pieces and that's it, job done. So that kind of disruption is happening in every industry, everywhere, an FE, an HE, and we all are struggling to keep up and doing a bad job of it most of the time with this digital disruption that AI is just going to make it much more prolific in the rate of change.
And just in case, listeners, you think that we are totally and utterly focused on nothing but construction, let us reassure you that we're interested in all industries here. I think we've just got time for one more question, which actually follows on quite well from that. And I really apologise that we haven't got to everybody's questions, but we will be answering all of them in writing and publishing that and sending that out to all of our attendees. And this last question is really, how would the new Innovation Centre work? And what would be its immediate strategic priorities, which comes in from the University of Chichester? Jonathan, shall I pass that one to you, or who would like to grab that?
Yeah, I'm really pleased to grab that. I mean, the Innovation Centre was mentioned by Kirsten in her presentation, and it's a project that Coast to Capital is leading alongside Crawley Borough Council and Thales, which is a major employer in Crawley, as you know. And it's a fully funded project, so government has given us a significant amount of money to get it off the ground, and we're really excited about it. So this stems from an analysis of the way that the economy works in Crawley, and Crawley is the biggest driver of jobs in our region, bar none. You know, before the crisis, Crawley was one of the most successful places in the country, and many people who don't commute to London commute to Crawley. So, you know, it's absolutely essential that economy continues to thrive and adapt. And the big challenge for the Crawley economy is a lack of competitive, innovative, medium-sized businesses. It's served really well by large employers, but not necessarily by smaller and medium-sized employers. And I don't mean that there aren't any smaller and medium-sized businesses. I mean that the sorts of businesses that will be a supply chain for companies like Thales or Boeing or Electa or many of the kind of enormous multinationals that are in Crawley, they're just not based in our region. Now we need to rectify that, because the region is no longer competitive if we're just a place where big companies exist. You know, you need smaller businesses in that sector to attract graduates, to attract postgraduates, researchers. You know, these are the people at the start of their careers who will end up putting down roots here and who will do the highest paid, highest productivity jobs. And I'm afraid the feedback we were getting before the crisis was that, you know, Crawley and West Sussex and the Gatwick Diamond was becoming less and less competitive, you know, to not being rude, but, you know, how many globally qualified, tech PhDs, if they've got a job offer from Microsoft or Google, choose to come and live in our area? And not enough is the answer. So our Innovation Centre is going to be tailor-made business environment which will attract those sorts of businesses there, and they in turn will attract the people and the economy that goes with it. And the deal for all the employers in Crawley is, if you work with us on this, then you'll get a homegrown local supply chain, and then you start to see innovation happening because the biggest companies work with the smaller ones. So it's really exciting. It's a tried and tested model across the country. You know, there are some excellent innovation spaces in Brighton. And we will have one in Crawley within 18 months. And just for the avoidance of doubt, you know, it's an innovation space. It's not a shared office space. It's not a kind of co-working space. It's not a Regis or a Base Point, important as those things are. This is something that's will focus on a very specific set of cutting edge tech issues, and will be, you know, of national and international renown as the sort of place that people will come to. Thanks very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Jonathan. And I think on that note, I hope that has been informative for you all. So I want to thank our panel members for showing up today. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Robert. And thank you, Fran. Fran is going to stay with us, I think, to wrap up now. So I'll hand over to you, Francis.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much, Jenny. And thanks everybody on the webinar for some really great questions. You always wonder when you take something like this on, quite what sort of questions you're going to get asked and how that discussion is going to go. But I get a feeling that was well received. So, and thanks for helping facilitate that, Jenny. So just to wrap up then, a bit of a recap, I guess, over what we've achieved since we published the action plan, Skills Action Plan in September. So we've talked about the launch of the Careers Hub and the establishment of those cornerstone employers who will support that. And if and when successful, will be rolled out as a model across the rest of the area. We're really pleased to say that we've been accepted as one of 6 national areas for a pilot home decarbonisation academy. There we go, I managed to say that without tripping over it. And that supports the development of skills to retrofit homes with low or zero carbon energy solutions. So again, a bit around the construction industry, but a really important element there. We're currently developing a skills portal for employers to use on the Growth Hub website. And we've just delivered 2 online Year 11 transition events across the whole of Sussex and Surrey, using partnership with Satro and Sussex Learning. We're on track with our development of a business case, as you've heard, for the Innovation Centre. And again, just to push it again, supporting the development of the bid for an Institute of Technology in the area. And you've heard about the development of those board champion roles. But what next? So now we've got those champions in place, we want to do a couple of deep dives to start with into employment opportunities around the current offer and future skills needs. And they'll be in the particular areas of construction, surprise, but also the health and care sector, really to help support the recovery of that area. And that will be led by our skills champions for those areas. Then we're about to launch 2 European social fund calls to support unemployed people and business in the new year. And we're planning that virtual careers education opportunity during the spring and summer term. So lots happened, lots going on. We've talked a lot today about collaboration and working further with business and stakeholders. So possibly for some of you, the best bit, how can you get involved? What can you do to help support and move this agenda forward? We'd like you to contact us and let us have case studies for the local skills report that we're preparing as part of the Skills Advisory Panel requirements for central government. So that really gets our region's case on the radar of central government, and we will be asking you for those soon. We really, really want you to share pilot ideas with us about how we can support any of those ideas that we've outlined in the action plan so far. And we really want to hear from any businesses out there that want to have a little bit more of an exploration around collaborative approaches to those labour market challenges, or how we can support schools, colleges and university students to find out more about the world of work. So please don't be shy, don't wait necessarily for us to come to you. If there's a burning issue there that you really think that you can help with, please do get in touch with any of us, and we'd be very pleased to hear from you. We will reach out to you, but it's great if you can reach out to us as well. So just to say a few sort of final words of thanks. I'd particularly like to thank Julie and colleagues on the board for their participation in today. To you for joining us and sticking with us, and particularly to Platform 9, who've actually made the delivery of the event today really smooth. And I'm horrified to be the only person who didn't unmute at the right time. So I hope that didn't cause too much disruption. Hopefully the event's given you lots of information about where we are and where we think we're going, and lots of food for thought, but possibly most importantly, a route now into the skills board for further collaboration. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much for joining us. Take care.